My name is Short Green, and I am going over an application made for Week 7 Assignment 1 of my CNIT 175 course at Purdue University, West Lafayette. So here we have our application. It's made in Visual Studio's 2013 with Visual Basic Coding. This application is a property calculator for select shapes. We select our shape here. We used a combo box so that we could keep the user from inputting any data, which could result in runtime errors or just issues with data validation. And then we put in, our three shapes that the program knows how to do: cube, cuboid, square base pyramid. So here, we go over here to the right, and we have our dimensions group box. And the group box just keeps everything together, makes it look nice, and helps to keep things clear with what's inside the group box and what its use is. So we have length, width, height within the dimensions group box, each one with a text box. Text box is the simplest and cleanest way to receive numbers in this format. So basically, when our dimensions go in, they're going to be of the data type double, which means they have 2 points past the decimal point. And so if we had used the combo box, the length, width, height, we would have to have a different index for 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.04. And then when we went to do the coding, each selected index would have to have its own if statement, and there would be a bunch of them, a crazy amount of them. So we just went with the text box. It simplifies everything for us here. Let's go ahead and input some random data. Here we have our list box. We chose a list box over a label because it made this table format a lot easier, and this really helps the user to understand what he's seeing. Also, if we come in here and add a whole bunch of them, that's not going to fit in the, like this. Okay, so here we have our top, and the label would not allow us to do this. The list box will allow us to scroll up and down the list, whereas the label is just a fixed shape, and once you run out of space, you're done. Okay. So now we'll come up here and hit clear, which will clear reset shape and dimensions, but also will clear out our array that's storing them completely, so that we start over completely fresh. Now we come down here, and we have our volume. Let me input some data real quick. Sorry. All the crushing. Cool. Alright. So now we come in here to our useful statistics page. Unfortunately, my volume and surface area group boxes are not working due to an error with my sorting function, or sorting procedure, sorry, which didn't work out right. I'll have to go back and fix that later. However, we use these two group boxes would display average, minimum, and max volume, and then over here the surface area, average, min, max. We use group boxes so we can keep volume and surface area together, and it looks nice, and it makes a nice final product here. We use labels because we would only be storing one number at a time, or displaying one number at a time in these labels, which made the scroll feature of the list box a mute point. And so we use the labels because they're a lot easier to add things to, and then without clearing them out, things like that. When in the code, you can just write, you put something in a label, and then without clearing it, put another thing in the label, and the first thing disappears. Makes sense? But yeah, so that works. And we also have a little label here for the number of shapes for basically the same reasons. Okay, so there's one more function that I skipped over here. It's the display function here. My display function doesn't work because, again, the sorting functions did not work out. I need to go back and fix those. However, you can pick ascending or descending order, which will put it in A to Z alphabetical order or Z to A. depending on what you want, after you click display. Yeah, we use radio buttons because if you see I'm clicking back and forth, you can only pick one at a time. You can't pick them both like with checkboxes. So that's one option. The checkboxes would let you check both, and that just wouldn't work. Your program will get confused. Yeah, and also combo box would work here just as easily. It just doesn't show the options as well, I guess. But yeah, so I think that's about it for the GUI. Exit here, and I'll start going through some code. Okay, start up at the top here. We have our private structure data type, or private data structure. It's named mShape, and within mShape, the data type, we can store multiple different data types. For instance, name the string here. There's a string data type, length is a double, width is a double. And this basically allows us to come down here, declare this array as mShapes, and then make it as this data type. That way, within this array, we can store, one string, one double, one double, one double, one double, one double there. So it's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide array. But yeah, it's a dynamic array so that we can resize it later, and it's not a static array where we can only fit in X amount of things. Now we can do an infinite amount of things in this array. And then of course setting up, declaring the index to keep track of where we are in the array. Okay, let's go to our isValid function. We have our first one, which is a simple existence check. Sorry. This is just to make sure that one of the shapes is selected and it's not left blank. This would result in a runtime error if it was left blank. So it just confused the name. We come down to the next one. It's a range check for height, length, and width. Making sure that sorry. We're just making sure that txt height is not greater than or equal to 50. Then we'll come down here, display message. We'll go over the display message procedure later. It displays the message, please enter a real number between 0 and 50, non-inclusive. That'll be displayed to the user. And then we come down here and we will return false, which will lead to the exit sub later on in the program. With the same here, except we're making sure it was greater than 0. Here, we are checking to see if txt height.text is indeed a double datum type and is a real number. And again, we do it for all three. So if any one of them fail or come up false, then it displays the message, please enter a real number between 0 and 50, non-inclusive, then sets the focus back on the text box so that the user can immediately fix their mistake, and then it returns false. And then ending it there. Alright, sorry there was a little skip there. My wife and I are babysitting a 2-year-old, so she had to call in for some backup for a second. But sorry, I'm back. I believe I was here going over this. We use the the triparse method to make sure that txt height.text is indeed a double data type, and also that it's a real number. So we did it for all three, and if any of these three come back false, then we display message OK. Please enter a real number, and then set our text or focus back to txt height. Next one. If CBO shapes.text equals square base pyramid, so if our shape is a square base pyramid, and the length is not equal to the width, then we display message OK. The length must equal the width, and txt length.focus. That of course gives us the focus back to txt length, and it returns a false, which tells us to exit sub later on in the program. And we end that if. And the final one, if cbo_shapes.text is equal to cube, and length is equal to width, like it has to be on a cube. The length is not equal to width, like it has to be equal to each other in a cube. Sorry. Then we display our message. Length and height width must be equal. Set our focus back to txt height so we can fix our mistake, and then we return false, causing the exit sub and if. And then if we make it all the way through these ifs, and don't have to duck into any of them, then we return true, and we let the program keep running. So now we can go back down to our enter here. We declare our variables, and then there's some variables later on I'll explain later. Yeah, so then here we take the isValid function that we just went over and call it, and if it comes back false and we dip into any of those if statements, then we exit sub, and the user fixes the mistake, and we try again. Now we put the values in our variables. We make the m index up here increase, and then we read and preserve our array with the m index, which allows us to have a perfectly sized array every time. Then we shove the variables into the array at each slot, name, length, width, height. Then we use these two equations, or these two functions to call these two functions to calculate volume and surface area. So let me go up here and explain those functions. Find it. Sorry, a lot of functions. Oh, here we go. One, calculate area. So here we dim our variable to store our surface area into. Then we come down to if statement. If cbo_shapes.text is equal to cube, this means that if cube is selected in the combo box, then surface area is equal to, and here we have the formula for surface area of the cube. And then we went through and did the same thing for all three. Again, only thing changes are the equations. You have to use a lot of parentheses with this, so that, or I have to anyway, so that I can follow through and make sure I didn't make any orders of operation errors. But yeah, so there's the calculate area, and then the find volume one is basically exactly the same, except I changed this variable name, and of course the formulas are changed. Also with this one, instead of using the text, I used the selected index, because I did them at 2 different times, and basically they're both a great way to do it, and it works either way. They both have their strengths and weaknesses, so it doesn't really matter which one you pick. The selected index one, if you change the index order, then you have to go in and change your code, and it really messes with your code and results in a bunch of confusion. However, if you do the .text one, then you have the problems of typos in your code, like when you spelled it pyramid with a Y when you set up a GUI, and pyramid with an I when you set up your code, then you're going to have issues and things like that. So it doesn't really matter which one you use, they both work fine. Okay, so we have those two functions. Now we come back down to enter. We were right here. Okay. Here we have right. I'm taking the variables I just defined up here, and then I'm shoving volume into the volume slot of the M shapes array, and the same with surface area. And then I use the short shapes alphabetically function, but it's just an empty function right now because, again, I didn't know how to do that basically. So I just put in an empty function and I commented it out, so it didn't cause any problems. But yeah, if I knew how to make the function, this would be how you call it. Then I clear the list box. so that I didn't get, basically if I comment this out, it screws up my table. It makes it so that the same ones pop up over and over. So for instance, I have 1 in there now. When I hit it again, I should have 2 in there. How? Oh, nope. Okay. Well, I screwed that up. Never mind. But basically what happens is it stacks up. So like if I have a cube with an area of 3, and then I input a cube with an area of 4, I have a cube. I will end up with 2 cube area 3s and 1 cube area 4, and it screws up the formatting. Okay, so then I call my display array function, which I will go over and explain now. Where is it? Display array. Here we go. Okay. So this is a pretty simple loop. We have to dim a counter for the loop, a loop counter. Then we clear the output box. That's so that we can start over nicely. We have a clean box. Oh, that's why when I commented the other clear function down here out, it didn't demonstrate the error that I was explaining earlier. It's because it went ahead and cleared anyway when it ran into this. So yeah. Anyway, so now we should sort the shapes alphabetically. I would show you this function, however I did not know how to do this, so again I commented it out. Anything that's commented out is basically stuff that would result in runtime errors because the sorting function didn't work correctly. Okay, so now we come down to our loop. It's a for loop. We set our counter equals 0, then we tell it to go to m index one number at a time. So we go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way up to the m index, whatever that may be. Okay, and then for each array, sorry. We're displaying things to our output output list box. So we use .items to access the items property, and then we use the command add to add what's in the parentheses to list things. So we use our array, and then the counter, which gets us the correct index, and then of course we're going to step through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way to m index, so that everything will eventually be displayed once the loop is done iterating. And then we access the name, which will give us which column we're supposed to use, since this gave us what index we're supposed to use. And then we pad it right 20, because pyramid base triangle, or yeah, square base pyramid, sorry, is a really long word. It has like 19 letters, so I padded it right 20 to make sure that that column has enough spaces for it. Yeah, and yeah, so that's already a string variable, so I don't have to add the 2 strings like I did on the rest. So we do the same thing here, mshape, ctr, access the length column, and then here, as I was saying, we have to do 2 string, and then n2, which makes it a string, and then cuts the number off at 2 decimal places. So 22.255 would come out as 22.26. And then we pad it to make the table format like we like, and space everything out. And then we just keep on rolling and do the same thing with all the other ones, because they're all doubles, double data type, which needs to be converted to strings. Did that all the way across. I made these paddings. I made them. Sorry. I made these. That's going. Sorry. What's going on? I made the paddings for the surface area and the volume bigger because I figured those would be bigger numbers since they gotta run through the formula and multiply out. Okay, and then next, which we have to end all 4 loops with and CTR, and then we end that sub, we go back to our inner. So those are display arrays. And then here, I have minimum surface area, maximum surface area, average surface area. Screw that up. So we have all these variables, which again, issues with the sorting cause me to have to comment them out. But they are for our volume and surface area, average, minimum, maximum. And I made a function for finding minimum surface area, max surface area, average surface area. I guess I'll go over those real quick right now. Max surface area. Dim max is double, and then we're going to sort the array. Sorting the array from in ascending order, and then come down here and set the variable max equal to our array with the final index on it. Since it's an ascending order, that will be the biggest number. Dot surface area to get us the correct column, and then we return that, and that's going to go down here and get stored in max surface area. Okay, so min surface area. Basically, we're doing the same thing here, where m index is the largest and index 0 is the smallest. So min is equal to the array, this is the index, and then this is the column. And then we're going to return that variable, which just got the surface area, small surface area stored in it. And then that's going to come down and get stored into minimum surface area. And then I'll show you average surface area. Alright, this one's a little more complicated. We have to have a loop counter. In average, they'll get returned in a total, which is we used to do math with. So we have another for loop. Loop counter equal to 0 to m index, and then there's nothing there, so it's going to step 1 automatically. So 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to m index, which means we're going to stop at every index in our array. So we start out wanting to find the total, because it's total over total number of things in the array. So if total is equal to the previous total plus m shapes loop counter, that tells us index in array, and then the surface area of that index. And then I guess we don't have to index, sorry. That was extra, I need to put that in there. CPR. Cool. Anyway, so then we say next loop counter, which tells it to go back up to the 4. And then here we calculate the average, which will be equal to total over m index plus 1. We use m index plus 1 because the first item in the array is the 0 index. It's a 0-based system. Therefore, if we have 7 indexes, we have 8 items. So index 7 plus 8 tells us that plus 1 equals 8, which tells us that we have 8 items in the array. Okay, then we return the average so that we can then store it in surface area average. And then it's the exact same for the volume, the 3 volume ones. Okay, then we come down and we just push those variables out to the labels with a .to string because they're in a double type. If you remember from here, they're in doubles data type. So .string n2, which gives us 2 decimal points, and then we come down here and we go ahead and tell the shape counter again m index plus 1 because of the 0-based system. And then we go ahead and set our focus to CDO shape stuff, to a combo box, but that's the first thing that the user will be clicking with next. Okay, so that wraps up our enter button, and I will go ahead and move on to the next button here. Okay, so this is button display. Again, this one caused big problems because I didn't know how to sort the arrays. But basically, if we have if RDB ascending.checked, which is whether or not the user has clicked on the radio button ascending, is equal to true, which means yes, it is clicked, Then we would sort the shapes alphabetically, which means ascending order, um, alphabetically. So cube, and then cuboid, and then square base pyramid. And then if RDB descending not checked is equal to true, which means if someone clicked on radio button descending, then we would put it in reverse alphabetical order: square base, pyramid, cuboid, cube. And then we display the array because we are physically changing the array. So when we sort it, it changes the indexes and mixes them up where everything is. So yeah, so we just display the array. Here we have our final button, the clear button. We set the selected index of the combo box back to -1, which sets it to nothing. And then make sure that the radio button ascending is unclicked by saying .checked is equal to false. Same thing with descending. And then all these text boxes we just set equal to a string of nothing, which means it's nothing in the list. We go to LST output, and then we use the items property and the clear function, and that clears out everything in there. Same thing with these labels. And then we set our focus to the txt height. That's the first user input where they enter the keys, basically, and not use the mouse. And then we reset index, which is where we get a little more complicated. When we hit the clear button, we are making the computer forget all the buttons that we had stored in the array, all the shapes that we had stored in the array previously, and just set up and start all over again. So we have to reset our index back equal to -1. And then we redim the array without preserving it. That way the shape or the array gets taken back, and none of the things in it are preserved. None of the data in it are preserved. Okay. Yeah. So that pretty much is it for the function for the application review. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you have a nice day.